Alright, so Sam Goodman pulled out of the fight, and in comes Joon Kim to save the card and give me content to make. And so as expected with a late replacement, there wasn't much super high level tactics going on in the fight, since both guys didn't have much time to prepare for each other, but also as expected, Inoue completely dominated the overmatched Kim from start to finish, and I'll break it down. And so the first thing I want to talk about is how Inoue immediately came out at the start of the fight controlling the lead hand of Kim, since this is a southpaw versus orthodox match, or an open stance matchup. Controlling the lead hand prevents your opponent from using that hand, and in turn makes it much harder for them to set up punches with their rear hand as well, since they can't use their lead hand to punch or probe to close distance. Notice Inoue puts his hand on top of Kim's hand. This puts gravity on his side where he could parry Kim's hand down to take it out of play. Also, Inoue is free to attack above Kim's hand to set up his own offense. This lead hand control was something Inoue neglected early in the fight against Luis Neri, leading to him being stuck on the defensive, while Neri was able to get his offense going because he had control of not only Inoue's lead hand, but also the space between them. It wasn't until after Inoue began hand fighting with Neri when he was able to get his own offense going again. And so by imposing this lead hand advantage, Inoue was able to set up his offense by attacking over top Kim's lead hand. This punch was timed after Kim tried to use his lead hand, which Inoue was controlling. He was able to freely step to the outside angle outside of Kim's lead foot to set up his right hand. And he was able to step to the inside angle or inside of Kim's lead foot to set up his jab. The one thing to worry about with taking the inside angle is that it opens up the outside angle for the opponent to escape, and there were several times where Inoue would push Kim to the corner, only for Kim to escape out the outside angle after defending Inoue's inside angle attack. And then we see almost the exact same thing here. Inoue has Kim cornered, and then when he shoots the inside angle jab, Kim is able to avoid it by stepping to the outside angle, and then he escapes the corner. Even worse, if you take the inside angle, it automatically gives your opponent the outside angle where they are in position to hit you back if they successfully defend your attack. Here we see Inoue take the inside angle jab again, and Kim is able to counter it with his own jab. Now Kim has the outside lead foot position where he has the advantage. Inoue will have a hard time defending a punch from either hand here, and he also is not in a good position to throw effective punches himself. One of the cardinal sins of the open stance matchup is to turn to face your opponent when they gain the outside angle on you. This is because they already moved to a position where they can hit you, and while you're turning to face them, you turn directly into a punch or two. This is exactly what Inoue did against Neri. When Neri had the outside angle on him in round 1, Inoue turned on the spot to face him, and then he turned directly into a punch that dropped him for the first time. Against Kim, Inoue didn't make this mistake. You see, the correct thing to do when you find yourself in this position is to step into the space vacated by your opponent. You essentially want to step where your opponent was just at so that you switch places. We see Inoue swings his rear foot around to step into the vacated space by Kim. He could have stepped a little further out than he did to be safer, but this ends up being good enough. So now we see Kim is going for the same left hand that Neri dropped Inoue with in the same situation, except since Inoue stepped into the vacated space, well, almost but not quite, he's able to avoid the punch after another step back to make up for not stepping all the way out to the vacated space. And instead of getting dropped like he did against Neri, he avoids the punch and counters Kim. Brilliant boxing. Although Inoue wasn't as careless to turn on the spot like he did against Neri, he did seem to get really comfortable after the first round, as once Kim felt his power, Inoue didn't need to use the lead hand control as much. Inoue was comfortably walking him down more at will, and here he seemed to get a little careless by following up this inside angle jab with a straight right hand. I want to make it clear that there is nothing wrong with doing this, but there is certainly added risk, as opposed to shooting the 1-2 from the outside angle like he has been doing the whole fight up until this point. As previously mentioned, If the opponent defends the inside angle jab, they will be able to counter you from the advantageous outside angle. Adding the right hand after the jab adds more risk to this scenario because the right hand is further from the target than it would be from the outside angle. This gives your opponent more time to see it coming and defend it or counter it, and if they do, they will still have the outside angle on you. Here Kim sees the right hand coming, ducks under it, and launches a counter overhand that nails Inoue. Luckily for Inoue, the punch didn't faze him, but this could have ended up as an upset KO of the century. Like I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with shooting the 1-2 from the inside angle. Inoue knocked out Payano with it after all. And this counter reminds me of when Maidana countered Mayweather's pull counter. And lastly, I want to talk about how in open stance matchups, in my personal experience, I don't like to try to defend against the rear hand by trying to parry or block it. The angle of the punch can be difficult to predict, and there is much more power coming from the rear hand than a lead jab. I prefer to maintain distance, usually with lead hand control and lead foot dominance. And then when I see the rear hand coming, I have enough distance to step away from it, or bend at the waist to duck under it. Here Inoue does exactly that, and steps away from Kim's straight left. This allows him to make Kim overextend, and he capitalizes on it by countering him with a left hook. This hurts Kim, and Inoue, being the monster finisher that he is, unloads on him, finishing him off with the classic 1-2, where the jab clears the way for the right hand, which Kim didn't see coming. And that's going to do it for this one. Thank you to all my GOAT tier patrons: Jason Maheenan, Grant Gabriel, Albert Chen, Gostali Geza, Marshall Bott, Jesus Galindo, Nyan Valdez, MSM Neil, RC, Daniel Contreras, Lionel Johnson, Val Ravenheim, Jacob McMillan, JJJR, Sua, Maxwell Hodge, Josiah Rozier, Braden Sosa, Defensive Genius, and my channel member Lucas Miller. You guys all keep the channel going, and I'll see you guys on the next